I think there's been some questions over the years whether or not Freddy Peralta is a legit ace of a pitching staff, especially one that's a perennial contender for a playoff spot. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
At Freddy's numbers here. Hey, everybody. Chuck Freimund here, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, proud host of Locked On Brewers. We are brought to you by Game Time. Game Time right now. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Coming up on the show, Freddy Peralta. Yes, I hear this all the time. Is he or isn't he the ace? I think it's been decided this year. We'll get to that. Hey, there's no doubt in my mind. Christian Yelich has returned back to form. It took some time. It took a surgery, and we had to bear with him through some lean years there, but he is back leading this team in the heart of the order, and he did it again on Tuesday night. Also, the Uecker locker room tribute, we're going to touch on that a little bit, and magic numbers. The Brewers is at 7 right now. We'll get to all that coming up here on Locked On Brewers. Freddy Peralta set down 14 of his final 15 hitters on Tuesday night, allowed a home run, first time all year. He has struck out 10 in a game, gave up 4 hits. 9-1 at home this year. He's 9-1 at American Family Field with an ERA of 1.71 this season. There's no pitcher in baseball who's got a better home record, better numbers than he has. None whatsoever. He has been great. He's on the verge of 200 strikeouts, which he would become the third Brewer in history to do that. Just putting up just some outstanding numbers this year. And I think we always get on Freddie for the pitch count. Oh, there it is. And I know because when he's in the game, that pitch count, even for a little bit today, the pitch count was running up there a little bit. But the numbers don't argue. 17-6, 2.65 earned run average. And Pat Murphy has always said he hasn't reached his ceiling just yet. And by that, it's the pitch count. Again, he'll get into an 0-2 count on a hitter and then end up walking the guy or end up throwing 11 pitches and might end up getting a strikeout, but using some extra pitches on non-competitive pitches. But I think there's no doubt he's proven he's an ace. You feel great every time he's on the hill, right? I do. I feel very comfortable. I have no problem putting him in the number 1 spot to pitch the playoff game, just like last year. And it's funny, his last start, he gave some home run balls, and it wasn't great. And then the question, that was just like ammunition for people who don't think Peralta's an ace to just throw that out there and say, well, I don't know if I feel comfortable with Peralta pitching game 1. Maybe we ought to go with Woodruff. Maybe we ought to go with Priester. I thought those are bad options, but Peralta deserves it. Peralta deserves it. I've had question marks on whether or not he's a guy at the top of the rotation on a pennant contending team, on a team like the Milwaukee Brewers. But the proof is in the pudding. The numbers don't lie. 17-6, a 2.65 earned run average, and the Brewers got the best record in baseball. Oh, yeah, what's the record again? 92-56. 92-56. Best record in baseball. And Freddie at the top of that, getting it done, and definitely a Cy Young candidate. The Brewers obviously got a decision to make, and not one they have to make this season, maybe the offseason, similar to what Corbin Burnes had, similar to what Devin Williams had. Do they let one of their pitchers, one of their star pitchers, go into their final season with the team, knowing that they're not going to resign him? Because let's face it, we all love Freddie, but the Brewers don't pay for pitching. They weren't going to pay for Josh Hader. They weren't going to pay for Devin Williams. They weren't going to pay for Corbin Burnes. And I get that. And I'm on board with that. I am on board with that. I don't want to trade Freddy Peralta. I want him to pitch next season. I know we got to get through this year, but we got to get through this year. And $8 million next year, I would let Freddie pitch one more year with the team. And then if he walks, he walks. You don't get anything for him. But to me, it's worth having him on the team for an extra year doing what he does, especially if he does what he does this year. I don't expect him to come back next year and put up these kind of numbers, but certainly if we're talking about trading him and the Devin Williams trade, obviously that was fantastic. It worked out. They got Caleb Durbin. And that was it. Well, not so much. They sent Cortez for Lockridge, and Lockridge is currently in the minor league system. But and a guy they feel could be a future on this team as one of the outfielders in that rotation, maybe. But they're not going to pay for pitching. They're not going to give Freddie $30 million a year. All right. Freddie's not going to take the hometown discount as we want Willie Adames to do. The Brewers have been very good at making decisions about this. Very good in how they spend the money. They can't. Here's why they won't pay for pitching. I mean, there are probably other reasons why, but a pitcher, they can't afford to have a guy on the shelf making $25 million a year, right? They would rather pay that type of money if they're going to pay it out, and they didn't even do that for Willie Adames, which turned out to be a great move. They want a guy who's going to play every day. They're not going to pay for pitching. They weren't going to pay for Hader coming out of the bullpen, giving him that type of contract. Certainly Devin Harris. Well, at this point, maybe they would pay for Devin Harris over Devin Williams. Devin Williams, they weren't going to pay for that, and that turned out to be a great deal, and they got Durbin in return out of that deal. But $30 million a year or whatever, you know that someone's going to give Peralta that type of money, just like Arizona gave Corbin Burns that type of money, and that's an example right there. Corbin Burns, he's having surgery, and he has not pitched in a long, long time, right? And imagine if that was here. Imagine that was Burns did great work here. And I know some people were disappointed in the 2023 playoffs against Arizona, but Arizona felt enough about him to sign him after Baltimore didn't want him, after the Brewers traded him to Baltimore. But the Brewers aren't going to pay for Freddy Peralta. They're not going to pay for pitching for anybody. They might like a guy. The guy might be a clubhouse leader or whatever, but there's a point where the Brewers say, hey, we're not going to do it. We're just not going to do it. We're not going to pay for it. It's a business decision, and I'm on board with that. Don't pay for pitching. Grow your pitching in your farm system like the Brewers have. The Brewers, and it's not like they're lacking of pitching, of starting pitching. They got a lot of really, really good starting pitcher, right? Logan Henderson's going to compete for a spot on this team. I'm still not done with Tobias Myers. Even though he's working out of the bullpen in long relief, I still have hope for him. Maybe Ashby, D.L. Hall. There's plenty of pitching, right? Chad Patrick. There is pitching on this. Robert Gasser. There's pitching in this organization. Not that they don't need Peralta and his special talent, Cy Young talent this year, but it's not worth it for them to pay, and in most cases, overpay for pitching. But there's going to be some team out there, some greedy team like the Dodgers, the Yankees, you name it, they'll overpay. They will overpay. I do not want to do that. If I'm going to spend some money, it's going to be on a position player. It is going to be on a position player. I'm going to tell you a little bit later on in the show, one Brewer, one guy who everybody, including me, wanted the Brewers to trade for, who's having a terrible start to his career in a different city after being traded. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But Freddy Peralta, let him play. There's $8 million deal next year, and then let him walk. Let him walk. One other note on the game on Tuesday night, and I'm going to get to Christian Yelich here in a little bit. Chad Patrick out of the bullpen. He was terrific. It looks like he might be a candidate for long relief on the postseason roster. It's going to be a very interesting postseason roster. Maybe a couple of good guys are going to be left off this roster. You can't have everybody on that roster. Somebody's going to get left off. Who is it going to be? I mean, is it going to be Grant Anderson? Who is it going to be? Chad Patrick? There's talk that he might have earned himself a spot. I'm going to give it a little bit more time before I say Chad Patrick's on the postseason roster. A little bit more time on that. I'm not going to go all in on that just yet. Let's give it a couple of more times out there. We got about a week and a half left here in the regular season before we make that decision. Good news on Jose Quintana. Mild calf strain. He was going to do some light throwing on the sidelines today, and then they're going to check him out and see what he has. What's going on? Heard he talked to the media on Tuesday. I keep thinking this is a Monday game. I'm doing this late night. It was a Tuesday game. Brewers had the day off Monday. Mild calf strain. He says he feels great. That's good to hear. A guy who's in his upper 30s, when he suffers an injury, you always think, caution that maybe it could be a little bit worse because of his age. Mild calf strain. The MRI says that. That is good news. That is great news. Because we're going to find a way to get Jose Quintana on this postseason roster. He's one guy who I want there. A veteran like that, absolutely. I'm not sure he's going to start, but he's a guy we're going to find a way to use in the postseason if need be. Jose Quintana, definitely. All right, we come back. Christian Yelich. I feel like we have not talked enough about what Christian Yelich has done. We've talked about Frelick and Terang and Durbin and so many guys who've contributed to this team. But Christian Yelich just goes on and on this season and has been doing it since May, right? I want to say May, late May, early June, was it, when he turned it around? It was like, seriously, it's the Boston Red Sox. When he hit that when he was player of the week. Might have been June. All right, we'll get to that coming up next. Chuck Freimund here, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This episode brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cash again. Pick anywhere, more or less, on 2 to 6 player projections. You can turn your takes into real prizes in all less than 60 seconds. Maybe you like more or less on Yelich hits. Maybe you like more or less on Durbin hits or football. Maybe you like more or less on rushing touchdowns for Saquon Barkley, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes on passing yards. You can do all that, mix and match, and download the PrizePick app today, PrizePicks, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So that's the code right there, LOCKEDONMLB, $50 in lineups after you place your first $5 play. PrizePicks. It's good to be right with PrizePicks. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Thank you all you everydayers for joining us here each and every day here on Locked On Brewers. And by the way, our podcast, if you're watching us right on YouTube, go to our growing podcast platform. Locked On Brewers is the number one podcast on Brewers podcast on the internet because of you great Brewer fans out there. Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your audio podcast, whatever platform, we're on all of them. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe, hit the like button on there. Whatever button gives you an alert, it's on all the platforms. And if you're already listening to us on the audio, come to our Locked On Brewers studio. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That alert you every time we drop an episode on Locked On Brewers. I am out of town here for the next couple of days. Out of town, and that's why I'm in a hotel room or outside the studio today, but we will be back there a little bit later on in the week. So appreciate you still joining me in. I know the background here isn't as glamorous as the Locked On Brewers studio that we got, but this is what happens when you take your show on the road. And we'll be doing that in the postseason, by the way. Brewers are in the postseason. We'll be on the road with these guys, however long they are, doing our shows 7 days a week. Locked On Brewers, 7 days a week during the postseason. Christian Yelich. This guy's worked hard to get back to where he is right now. And I think in recent years, we've been teased by, well, Christian Yelich is back to his MVP form, but he really wasn't. Even last year, I didn't really fully feel, and he was hitting over 300. The power numbers weren't great. They were good. They're okay. But I feel now, if Christian Yelich, this is as close as he can get to where he was in 2018 and 2019. This is it right there, here. Close to 100 RBIs right now. What is he teeter? He's at 99. He's got 29 home runs. Hit a 2-run bomb on Tuesday night. Christian Yelich is going to hit over 30 home runs. After he went back on back surgery last year, I thought there's no way this guy's ever going to be what he was. But apparently the surgery corrected it, and he has been fantastic. Yeah, he started off slow in April and May. He hit that grand slam against Boston, I think it was. He went on to have Player of the Week honors where he hit like 500, and his 171 batting average at the time took off. It climbed like 60 points in a couple of weeks, and Christian Yelich has been great. And for this team to have success, they need production, obviously from the heart of the order. And Contreras and Yelich have been two of the big reasons why. Contreras has had a big second half. Yelich has had just an amazing summer. And if you're going to ask me, yeah, those previous years, was it worth the 25 or 27 million he's getting? I'd say no. And if he was in the NFL, he might have been cut. If it was a non-guaranteed contract, he might have been cut. But right now, worth every dime of what he's making. Probably exceeding that right now. I mean, there's certainly guys who are making way more than him who aren't giving the production that Christian Yelich has. Giving great leadership. Yeah, sometimes Yelich, you see, when we interview him, it's like, oh, well, that's the way baseball is. And I don't like hearing that from players. I really don't. I mean, we just got to go back and get them tomorrow. I just don't kind of like that laissez-faire attitude. I don't think he really has it, but it comes across that way in his interviews sometimes. But I can tell you, he's a leader on this team. He's having a great year. And if ever there was a comeback player of the year, that guy should get it. Coming back from back surgery and putting the numbers that he's up in the big hits that he's had. He had a couple of them Tuesday nights. He had a run-scoring double, a 2-run home run, while this team is trying to clinch a playoff spot. Christian Yelich, coming back from a back surgery, to me, that's comeback player of the year award. But as I said in my short video after the game tonight, I'm tired of winning these postseason awards. I want championships. But Christian Yelich, definitely 29 home runs, doing a world of good. Now, we all wanted a new third baseman at the trading deadline, including me, right? I mean, the third base spot, I felt like until Durbin eventually took it over all by himself. Durbin and Ziegler, it was like I was tired of that platoon, and I was unsure if Durbin, if I wanted to ride him out for the rest of the season at third base. As a result, man, I am. I think ultimately he's probably a second baseman, but I criticized the size over the offseason. Can a guy that small play third base? He's done it effectively. He's been hard-nosed. He's been clutch. He had a clutch base hit tonight. Just amazing. And a guy who's worthy of our handing out postseason awards, a Rookie of the Year mention, without doubt. So Durbin, what would have happened if the Brewers would have went out and got Suarez, who was traded from Arizona to Seattle? Suarez is having awful numbers in Seattle. Durbin is putting up terrific numbers and terrific numbers in the clutch. I've seen Suarez so many times with the Mariners. The Mariners are playing some good ball right now, but that guy's not contributing at all. He's batting 168 since joining the Mariners. He's an 0 for 32 slump. Now, maybe things are different here. Who knows? But I know if they would have traded for Suarez and he would have been, at this point, batting 168, we've been doing half our podcast every day talking about what a bad trade that was and whatever prospects we gave away for Suarez. So, Doug Melvin always said, some of the best moves you make are moves you don't make. And this was a move the Brewers didn't make. They didn't do anything at the trading deadline, and it's turning out right now to be a great move. Now, who knows what Suarez is going to do in the postseason, but right now in the regular season, he is brutal. He is brutal to watch at the plate. He's terrible. I know he's better than Ed, but he can't get out of his own way. He's been terrible at the plate. And at the bottom line, the numbers don't lie. His production is very, very, very bad. When we come back, I'm going to touch on the Uecker thing, magic numbers, and we'll look ahead to Wednesday's game 2 against the Angels. And the Brewers got to sweep this series against the Angels, don't they? I said before 2 or 3. Yeah, they got to sweep them. Brewers are just tons better than the Angels. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. Monarch Money. Want to know how you manage your money? Monarch Money is the way to go. Hey, some of you guys out there, me included, we eat out too much. Monarch Money is going to show you where you're spending your money. What are you doing with all that cash? Where's that paycheck going? Monarch Money is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, categorization of your spending, and finally feel control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Monarch Money will help you organize your finances. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use my promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. Go to your browser, go to monarchmoney.com, LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get 50% off your first year. That's going to save you money as well. In addition to all the money they're going to save you, because they're going to tell you where you're spending your money and where you're wasting your money. Monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB is 50% off your first year with Monarch Money. Also, the Game Time app. Game Time, you want tickets for one of these final 2 games against the Angels, 2 night games? Well, go to Game Time. And as you get closer to Game Time, on Game Time, those tickets for that day's game, they drop like a stone in water. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price, plus all the fees are included. So the price you see is a price you pay. You're not going to get to the end of and it's time to get off the credit card, and you're going to see some price that's 3 times the ticket. No, you're going to see the fees. Fees are always included. So the price you see is the price you pay right there. But you got to download the Game Time app to get started. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code again, LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, $20 off. So go to Game Time. You want to buy $70 for the Brewers tickets, $100, you'll get $20 off when you use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Swipe, tack, ticket. Go to download the Game Time app today and create an account and get rolling on Game Time. All right, down the stretch we come here on Locked On Brewers. Good to have you along early Wednesday morning. I feel like Pat Murphy's drawn some criticism with the Bob Uecker letter. I think we all wanted to suspend reality for a little bit and pretend it was from Bob Uecker. And in case you haven't heard, and I assume you all have as Brewers fans, but I'm not going to assume, because that's what we can't do in the media business, is assume. Post-game on Saturday after the Brewers clinched a playoff spot, Pat Murphy read a letter from Bob Uecker that was handed to him by owner Mark Attanasio in the locker room. And it was addressed to the fellows in the locker room, and it talked about the season. And it did talk about, having the best record in baseball, and which was, obviously Bob passed away in January. How would he know, that they had the best record in baseball? But I wanted to suspend belief. I don't think I really wanted to know where that letter actually came from. You know what I'm saying? It was a tear-jerking letter that Murphy read Saturday, and I read it again on Sunday. I saw his speech, and and then the Brewers came out and said, well, yeah, it was written by Murphy as a tribute to Bob Uecker, and I have no problem with that. Although, like I said, I didn't really want to know where it came from. I was just like Santa Claus. You don't want to know that Santa Claus is not real. And if there's any kids in the room watching this, I'm sorry, parents, if I ruined it for you. But you just kind of want to suspend a little belief there that, Murphy was having a little fun there, and the team meant a lot to Uecker, and Uecker meant a lot to the team. But I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, the Brewers spilled the beans on Tuesday when they said, or the next day, Sunday night, when they said, well, no, it never did happen. All right, magic number down to 7 for the Brewers. Cubs won again to beat Pittsburgh. Cubs are playing some good balls. They've won 4 in a row. They've won the first 2 games at Pittsburgh. Skeens was not on for the Pirates, and the Cubs were able to get him early. The Phillies rallied and beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers, Shohei was pitching a no-hitter through 5. Dave Roberts, keep doing you. Keep doing you. You're doing a heck of a job managing the Dodgers this summer. Keep that up, man. We'd love to play you and love to see that type of managing in the postseason if we play you. But the Dodgers right now, we're pulling for the Dodgers against the Phillies. Because the Phillies are now, they're a game and a half out. They rallied from a 4-0 deficit. Dodgers are 8 games out. They're pretty much not going to get that number 1 seed, but the Phillies are closing in on it. So Dodgers did the Brewers no favor. Dave Roberts did the Brewers no favor last night by pulling Shohei. So the Phillies game and a half out. They got another game in Los Angeles. 92-56 for the Brewers. It's almost surreal to look at that, right? Almost surreal to see. 92-56. Amazing. Woodruff gets the ball on Wednesday night at AmFam Field against Soriano for the Angels. Got to like Woodruff again. I see he's at minus 190. Brewers were probably the highest price they've been all year on Tuesday's game. With Freddy on the hill, they were minus 260. And worth every dime, right? Worth every dime. Woody against Soriano. And Tuesday was Robin Yount's 70th birthday. Let that sink in for a second. The guy that Bob Uecker nicknamed the Kid when Robin came up in 1974 as an 18-year-old and played with the Brewers. 18 years old. Was in his 20s. When his late 20s, when the Brewers last made the World Series. Robin Yount was in his late 20s. He turned 70. Robin Yount turned 70. Still think Robin could probably give him a couple of base hits to the opposite field and right field. Guy's in great shape, plays golf every day or every other day out in Scottsdale. See him at the ballpark. Now a spokesman for a meat company in the Wisconsin area. Took over for Uecker. Robin Yount turned 70. The kid turned 70. Wow. I remember seeing him, 18 years old, Robin Yount, playing shortstop for the Brewers, man. And then he hit the weight room. Before you know it, man, that skinny kid, he developed some muscles and became a 2-time MVP. It's going to do it. My name is Chuck Freimund. Thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning in. And thanks for bearing with us in our on-the-road studio tonight. My name is Chuck Freimund, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.